Okay, so we're holding in the sugya on Pegilim and Beis. There's one shvera kasha tonight, and other than that, the daf is not so hard. So we had said in the Mishnah that if a guy, the first case in the Mishnah is when a woman makes a neder, she is not going to have hana from anybody. So then the first line in the Mishnah says that he's not allowed to be made for it. Now, why is he not allowed to be made for it? Because she can get hana from her husband, right? That's first. Then the next line says she could also get hana from leket shikhan peya. So there is a way for her to eat because she can. That's like what we call matnas naniyim. So she's able to eat those things, right? So it seems to be a stira because from the first line in the Mishnah it says the husband can't be made for it because there's a possibility for him to feed her. And then the second line says that the reason why he can't be mever is because there's a possibility for her to be nana from leket shikhan peah, which is what's given over to the aniyim. So it's a stira so basically the stira is whether the husband is included. When she says she's not getting hana from everybody, does she mean to not get hana including her husband, or does it mean all brias except for her husband? So we have conflicting mashmas. In the first line, it's mashma except from her husband. Second line in the Mishnah is mashma including her husband, because it says that she can go get leket shikun peah, which is not coming from her husband. So that's the stira. So we have three tirutzim. So that's what we're up to. Amar Ula. Let's just start from the Gemara. Alma, on Pegil and base. Alma after the mitzana midilei. We see from the first line in the Mishnah that the husband can't be mefer. So that means because she can get fed from him, right? So it's not an inu nefesh. Michlal the baal lav bichlal briasus. And then what you have to say is that when the woman said that she's not going to be nana from any brias, that she meant excluding her husband. But then it says Ema Seifa, but what about the Seifa? She is able to be nana from the matnas aniyim. But mashma that from the husband she can't eat. Why? Because the husband is part of all the brias, right? Alma bal b'chlal brias. So you see that the husband is included in brias when she said she doesn't want to be nana from anybody, right? So that's the kasha. So Amar Ula. So Ula said, La'ilam la b'chlal briyasu. It's not b'chlal briyas. The husband is not included in briyas. So how do you understand the Mishnah? So the Mishnah, you have to stick in the word ve'oid. Ve'oid ein yachal hafar mipnei sheyichal l'lanes b'leket shichur peah. Meaning the Mishnah means that he can't be made for it. Why? Because he could feed her, so it's not inu nefesh. And another reason is that she's able to go get from leket shikhan peah. Yeah, that's teretz number one. Rav Amar, lo'ilam bal b'chlal brias. He says the opposite. The husband is included in brias, so she cannot benefit from the husband. Uma tam gomer, and the Mishnah is saying the reason, meaning the second line in the Mishnah is not saying a new din, it's saying the reason for the first line. Right? Ma tam ka'amar. Ma tam ein yachal ha'afer. Why is the husband not able to be made for the neder? Because she can go be neder from leket shikhan peah, which is matnas anim, so she has a way to live. Therefore, it's not an inui nefesh. Right? Naftali had his kasha that it's a pain on the husband, so it should be considered inui nefesh on the husband. But that lachar is betbeinoi leveina. But I don't understand another thing. It's a pain in the neck to only be fed. You hold the rest of your life to be fed from leket shikha and peah. That's not exactly
like that in the Ran.
What?
The Ran's not mashma. That's the pshat. The Ran is mashma only because it was during the season, which mashma is seasonal.
So that we're gonna.
So that's a little strange. So does it last only through the harvesting season? What happens in the winter then?
Right, so I'm not sure. So we're going to see that later on, that there's different
times. She goes on a diet in the winter.
Or she puts it away. Like which animal puts the food away for the whole winter? The beer.
But it's mashma that if you would have made the neder in the winter time when there is no leket shikhan peah, the baal would be able to be made for it, I guess. So I'm curious. when it comes winter and now she's ushered all of this food, there's no food for her to get. Is the Baal then retroactively able to go ahead and be made for again?
Well, it seems like the Ran that you're referring to is trying to be the stira, and he's saying one is talking about Yosek Shamim. So yeah, you're right. According to that teretz, it's mashma that it would be dependent on the time. But it's a big chiddush because Maaser the Gemara is leaving that out.
Well, he has a big shiloh from Chenveni.
Yeah, right.
It's not his shiloh. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's a kasha, right, from Chenveni, right? The kasha is from Chenveni. If you remember, a couple of days ago, we said a Chenveni, right? If she makes a neder from a Chenveni, so, and you can only get from that Chenveni, so then it's a neder. He can't be made for it. What I mean, he could be made for it. So why could he be made for it? There's you can go to different, right? So it's very, like we keep saying every night, it's very difficult to know the gather here of what is considered inu nefesh, what's not inu nefesh. I don't know. Anyway, so those are the first two terots.
In our terms today, we don't have like a chick from Peah. Essentially, she made a neder that she's going to be. I mean, even if you did have like a chick from Peah, she made a neder that she's going to be vegetarian. Would that be a raya from this? That if there's no like a chick from Peah, then he could be made. Or if you hold.
I don't know, but l'chayro, she says she's gonna be vegetarian, so there's plenty of vegetables around, right?
Right, but that's a raya from this that would not be dvarish ben beina or inu nefesh.
L'chayro, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, fine. I'm not gonna say that I wish I could spend more time on this. I don't know if that would be emes. But in a way, I do wish I could spend more time on this. Okay. Rav Nachman Omar, before Nedarim, I certainly didn't think that I didn't have a havamina that I'd want to spend more time on it. At least Baruch Hashem, now at least there's a havamina that I would want to spend more time trying to get this all clear. Okay, Rav Nachman Omar, La'ilam Baal La B'chla Brias. So Rav Nachman goes, he says, the husband is not included in Brias, and therefore she could benefit from the husband. Niskarsha, when she gets divorced, which we learned before, once she gets divorced, so then the neder is out. Well, depending on which type of neder, but niskarsha yichaylu lahana, which reason for the hafara, but niskarsha yichaylu lahana is beleket shikha. Once she gets divorced, then she could be nena from leket shikha and peya. Right. So therefore, the husband cannot be made for it. Fine. Okay. So now on to Amud Aleph. Now we start today's daf. So this kasha. Just look at the size of the ran on this kasha to explain this kasha. It's a Eisvei. Well, actually, the ran is really before, but it's a lead up to it. Eisvei, Rav Rav Nachman. So Rav had a kasha to Rav Nachman. Right? Again, Rav Nachman is the one that says that the husband is not included in the brius, but it's saying that when she gets divorced, then she still will be able to eat, even though her husband's not going to have to feed her, because she can get leket shikhan pei. So Eser Rav Nachman ubal la bechlal briusu, and is the baal not bechlal brius? For Tanam, we learned in a mishna. Remember this mishna we had twice already. We're going to have it again later. Netula nimin ayudim. This woman says that she's taken, meaning she's taking herself out from yidden, which we had understood the last two daf, that it means that she's saying she will not have relations with any yid. So is her husband included in that or not? So we had said yofer chalkoi, the husband should be mefer his portion of it, and then he could sleep with her. But the rest of the yidden not. Right? So we said that the husband, because if he's not allowed to have relations with her, so that means that it's inu nefesh for her. Right? So therefore he's allowed to be mater, but it only works for himself, not for everybody else. Fine. But if you're going to say that the Baal is not included in the brius, which means that the neder never happened to him, right? Again, she had said here in this case, she made a neder, she's not having relations with any yid. Is her husband included in that or not? So we had assumed that her husband was included. That's why he had to be mefer his portion of the neder, and the other one not, right? Nidre inu nefeshein. if that's the case, and the husband's not included, then it is a neder of inoy nefesh, right? V'yofer lo la'olam, and then he should be made for it forever. Now it needs a lot of explanation what this is saying. Meaning, when and this Rabban, this is what you were asking a couple of days ago. Why did this woman make this neder? Why did she make a neder? What would her kavanah be? When she made the neder, she's not having relations with any yid. What does that mean? Is she including her husband? What's the point? She's usher to all. How could she include her husband? Right? She's usher to all the men anyways. I mean, how could she not include her husband? Right? She's usher to all the men anyways. So is she really making a neder on her husband also? Right? So we're saying l'chayra in that case, yes, because otherwise, why would she make the neder? Right? She's making it on her husband. Right? So then the husband's made for the neder, and then that's fine. But if you say that she didn't include the husband, so then why is she making this neder for? All these men are on her anyways, right? That's what you were asking a few days ago. Meaning, what is this woman when she's answering relations? All the other men in the world are also to her. So it must be that she's answering her husband, right? But if you say that he's not part of Brias, right? So now what is she making this neder for? Elamai, didn't mean relations. He didn't say that she's answering relations. She just said she's gonna be netula from yidden. So it must be that she means not relations. She must be that she means food, right? If she means food, then there is an inu nefesh, right? Because there's an inu nefesh. She's not gonna be able to eat, right? So that's basically how we have to understand the Gemara's kasha. Whatever it is, so it has to be that the husband is included in brias, right? So that's the kasha. So Gemara says
she'll buy in Gristides where the owner's not coded Jewish.
you mean, yeah. Why wasn't that an option?
She says min Yehudim. She doesn't say min.
You're saying why wasn't that an option to get? Unless are you going to say that it's just difficult? No, I don't know. Maybe you're going to say it's difficult to get from Goyim. I don't know. Again, with I don't know. So then the Gemara answers, "A malach." So I'll say no. Shani hacha here. No, here it's different. The muchacha milsa dal hetera ka asur nafsha. Here it's muchach that she is asering on heter, right? Meaning normally we say that the husband is not included in brias. Normally he's not included in brias. But once she said this terminology that she's not being nene from yidden, right? See, before in the Mishnah we're talking about, she said she's not being nene from brias. Here she said yidden, right? She's not having relations. Well, we're not sure what she's not having something from yidden. When she says yidden, then it must be that she's also including her husband. So therefore, the husband can be matter for himself, and he can't be matter for others. Okay, I hope I'm explaining that semi okay. Even as I say it, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but that seems to be what the Havamina was, that where the Havamina, the kasha, is that if you're saying that he's la b'chal briyasu, then it becomes a neder of inay nefesh, and he should be able to be made for everybody. So we're saying no, she does not include her husband in the neder, but here she did include her husband. Fine. Okay, let's see. Now we're into Zroyim. We're going to be doing Zroyim sugya now. So Yechaylu lahanes beleket shikhapeya. She's able to be nene from leket shikhapeya. Again, leket is what when they were picking the grains, so then it dropped out of their hands, so that they're not allowed to pick up. When a balabas, when a guy owns a field, is going through the field and he's picking up grains, and some of them drop out of his hand, so then that's leket. Shikha is if he forgot, he just skipped over some grain. And payas, the corner of the field, those all go to the aniyim. right? But then there's another.
Can I-
There's what? There's another thing that goes Tani, which is called Maaser Ani, right? In the Shemitah cycle, first, second, fourth, and fifth year is Maaser Sheni, which is 10%. After you give to the Kahanim and Levim, 10% has to be put away. You got to eat it in Yerushalayim. That's Maaser Sheni. The third and the sixth year is what's called Maaser Ani. You have to give it to the Aniyim. So our Mishnah does not say that this woman who banned benefit from any man in the world, right, or any person in the world, what happened to Maaser? Can she take Maaser Ani on the third and sixth year or not? Right. So that's what Gemara says. Yeah.
While we're kind of discussing what's considered a hana, what's considered a hana when if she has money, for example, she wants to go to a supermarket, so paying regular prices, that would be considered hana. If she goes to the market that charges twice what everyone else does, is that called a hana?
I don't know. Same question, Lyra.
What do you?
Right.
He's saying that if she has to go to a more expensive place.
We do that every day here in Farakwa in the 5 towns.
So maybe we should start making the Nedarim against it. Maybe. No?
There's no hana in that. Nobody's enjoying the shopping experience
Yeah,
because
so
they're all
I don't
knowing that they're
understand-
paying
no,
too much.
One second, David, that's not true. The guys who are sitting in that glass, the one-way glass, they're enjoying it very much.
Okay, so
Yeah,
so
but they're not the ones who are neder.
Exactly. I'm talking about everybody else.
The
Yeah.
person made the neder, he'd be allowed to buy somewhere that overcharges.
Because, it's not enough. Yeah, we had that 20 blot ago, 30 blot ago, right? Not mom. You
Is it the
overpay.
act of buying the food or eating the food? You have to know when you eat the food, no matter what you paid for it.
Yeah,
No,
but that's hana from Hashem. That's not from Brias.
they're not that he's not going to sell to a guy, then he's allowed to sell to him if he underprices the market. That's because then he's not getting hana, right? And then right, I think we had said that.
It's Yaakov, buying food in the 5 towns is a privilege.
Oh,
And we pay for that privilege.
there you go, mamish. Very good, very good. So fine. So the Gemara says, what happened to Maaser Ani here? L'chayr she should be able to take Maaser Ani too. Why didn't the Mishnah say Maaser Ani? So the Gemara says, V'loika tani of Maaser Ani. The Mishnah doesn't say she could take Maaser Ani. Right? So, but the problem is we have Tani of a braysa, the Tani of a braysa, which is also an interesting Tanya bebraysa. Right? That's a Nedarim one, Akiva. Right? Do we have that? Tanya bebraysa? And usually Tanya means a braysa, no? I don't know. I must have learned this almost 4 times, 5 times, whatever, and I just thought about it right now. That's what you're supposed to learn. We had a few daf ago. You're supposed
Well,
to learn.
there's a star over there, it's Yaakov.
It just says where, at
Oh, okay, fine.
least in mine, with the newfangled Gemaras, maybe you got, I'm not quite sure you have a new Gemara about, but I'm just saying the new, they have different, it says it's in the Tosefta here. Okay, Vatanya.
Okay.
It's Vatani bebraysa of a Maaser Ani. In the braysa, it says that she can take Maaser Ani. So what's going on? The Mishnah doesn't say Maaser Ani. The braysa does say Maaser Ani. So which one is it? So Rabbi Yosef, like Kasha, or Rabbi Eliezer, or Rabbanon. One's Rabbi Eliezer, one's Rabbanon. Now, what does this mean? So now, before we continue, we have to do this hakdama. So something called demai, which stands for demai, which is for whatever reason, Amaratzim. A lot. Well, truth is, most Amaratzim did, but there seems to be a considerable portion of Amaratzim didn't think taking Maaser that goes to the Levi, they didn't take it too serious. So the Chum said that when you take fruits and vegetables from an Amaretz, you have to take off Maaser. Truma, you don't have to take off because Truma they take very serious, right? But Maaser they don't take serious. Shaila is, what about Maaser Ani? Right? So that's a Machlokes. The Tan Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Ein Adam, a person's not mechuyev tzarich likrei shem. Likrei shem means is another word for separating. You're calling it a name, meaning you officially announce that this portion of your crops on Maaser. So ein adam tzarich likra shem on Maaser ani shel demai. For Maaser ani of demai, a person does not have to take it off. Right? So, and the reason is because it's a really hamaitzi mechaver olav araya, which is also a fascinating thing. The more common example of this, not really common, but if you have a shaila if the animal's a bechor or not. So the guy who owns the bechor doesn't have to give it because the kohen, if he wants the bechor, hamaitzi mechaver olav araya. Prove to me that it's a bechor, you can take the animal. The burden of proof is always on the person who wants to take it. So he's saying here, the burden of proof is on whoever the ani wants to take Maaser ani. He has to prove that the Amei Haaretz didn't take off Maaser ani. Regular Maaser, we know, right? But Maaser, right? But Maaser ani, we're not. He has to bring a raya. So Rebbe Eliezer says you don't need. I think it keeps falling down. Right? So Rebbe Eliezer says you don't have to, right? And on to Amud Beis now. Right? So again, Rebbe Eliezer, ein adam tzarich likra shem al Maaser ani shel demai. A person does not have to separate Maaser ani shel demai. V'chachamim ma'amar to Amud Beis. V'chachamim ma'amar kodesh shem. You do have to call it a name, meaning you do have to separate Maaser ani. Ve'ein tzarich lahafrish, but you don't have to separate it, meaning you have to verbal. I don't know if he means verbally or spiritually, whatever it is. You have to separate in your mind, but you don't have to actually physically separate it. So now what's this machlokes? What's a pshat? My love. What must be like this? According to the Mandamar who says that for a suffix, you that when there's a suffix on whether the grain was taken off, so then the whole thing is tevel. Right? So kasavar islay toivas hana. So he's gonna hold that there's toivas hana from the grain. Okay, I should have said that before too. So what's toivas hana? Toivas hana is not something tangible. Well, there's a word for it. What do I say, Rabban, in baseball when the guy has you have a player, the intangible. What is the name? Something like
Yes, intangibles.
he
What
brings
do you
something
mean?
not in the stats. He brings something to the team. It's not in the
Intangible. You bring
whatever. Right? It's not something. It's not something mamish. Whatever. It's not actual.
It's not measured. It's not measurable.
Right. Yeah. So right. So that's what Toivas Ana is. Basically, Toivas Ana is that the Maisa, Trumas and Maisras belong to the Kohen and the Levi. It doesn't belong to the Yisrael. We'll maybe get to that afterwards, right? So, but the bottom line is they can give it to whichever Kohen and Levi they want, and that Kohen and Levi is really allowed to even. They can give him a kickback too. They're allowed to give him a small kickback. The Kohen and the Levi, right? So we allow kickbacks, but it's not a major hana because the stuff doesn't belong to them, right? But since this Yisrael can decide who he's giving it to, so Mamela, there's some kickback. There's a kickback. That's Toivas hana. So what it's saying here is the Mandamar that says that's feikoi. The suffix is tevel. The chachamim, right? And you have to, meaning it's tevel. What tevel means is that the maisers, trumas and maisers, all in weren't taken off. So then it becomes tevel. And theoretically, if somebody would eat tevel, really is a chi of karas, right? So the chachamim hold that you have to take off maiser ani, right? So that means if you didn't take it off, it's tevel. If it's tevel, so then you have the toivas hana. The kivin the islay toivas hana, meaning bottom line is you could decide which ani you're giving the maiser ani to, right? Right, that's you could decide which ani you're giving it to. So then you have a toivas hana. So then loy mahani, if you have toivas hana, then the ani cannot take your food. Right? The ani can't take your food if you have toivas hana because then there is hana that you're getting from this guy. Meaning if the Yisrael has the wherewithal and the power to give it to whichever ani he wants. So if that's the case, right? If that's the case, then by the ani giving it to this woman who made a neder against the whole world, that is a hana, because since he's not charging her for this, he chose her over anybody else. That's a toivas hana.
Truma's also like that. I'm not copying why they're only saying this agave Maaser ani. Almost any you could choose who you want to give Truma to as well, no?
That's true, but we're
And
saying
the
the
chara
Mishnah,
also.
she's not allowed to take trumas and maisis. Right, we're saying true. We're saying that she can't take trumas and maisis. Right, that's the end of the Mishnah. Right, if he makes a neder against specific kahanim, they're not allowed to take it from him because the Tavas Anah, which the Gemara will ask Akiva later from this, but not that exact kasha, but a different kasha. But leket shikhampeya l'chayr there's no Tavas Anah because anybody can come into the take
But
it.
what I don't understand is both the Chacham and Rabbi Lazar both hold you can give it to whoever you want. Do they actually hold that you can't give it to whoever you want? Why would the Chacham be chaylik in that?
No, because it plays into it. Well, we'll get to it in a minute.
No,
We'll
I'm
get
saying
to
they make you be mafresh, but both hold once you're mafresh, you can go give it to whoever you want. No, you have to be. The Chacham say kari shame ve'ein tzarich lahafresh. You don't have to be mafresh, but they're masking that you can give it to whoever you want. It's kol shekan.
no, they could just come and take it. That's the shayla.
Why should you be able to take it? I don't have to give it to you.
We're going to see.
Lahafresh means that fakir, I have even more bias over it.
No, but we're going to see it weiter because it's totally in whether the person can give it or not. If he's able to give it, then the Tavas Hano. If he's not able, if it's totally
it's not mashma both. It's mashma that he has even more bias if you hold ein saraf afresh.
I know that's what you would think, but that's not the way it is. That's what
I'm not chopping. Curry shame ve'ein saraf afresh. You own it even more than the other person than the Rebbe Lazar holds that.
Correct.
So then you kol shekain according to Chacham, you can go ahead and choose if you want.
So that's what the Chachamim is saying, based on a technical point of what the pasuk says. It doesn't work like that. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. So let's
They're
anyway.
not tailor on each other.
That's what I'm saying. It's not much for the
You might have complete bilus, but if it doesn't make tevel, then his giving is not called a giving. In other words, if it's not called tevel, so it's completely mutter to eat now because it belongs to him completely. Then
Right.
The fact that he could give it to who he wants, it's not Maaser ani. On the tzad that he can give it to who he wants, it's not Maaser ani. The
Just
tzad
saying
that it
it.
is Maaser ani, then it doesn't make a difference.
Right, but ultimately he can give it. That's
He
what
can do whatever he wants with it. I'm not chopping how this is any shaykhs to
Not
Tavis
called-
Nadar or not.
But
If she's taking it because it's Maaser ani, then it's nothing.
correct. She doesn't owe anything to him for getting it from him. She doesn't owe anything to him. It's not his to give. He may have the control to give it, but it's not his to give. Right? That's basically what it's meaning. You have a gabbai tzedakah. You go to when a guy needs money, so you go to a gabbai tzedakah. So you makar toiv to the gabbai tzedakah for arranging it, but you don't have that same akoras toiv because it's not his to give. He's just giving it out for, meaning a rich guy has a gabbai tzedakah. He says, go to my gabbai tzedakah and get money from him. The gabbai tzedakah decides how much he gives. You don't have any big hakoras toiv to the gabbai tzedakah. He's just a secretary, right? So that's the same thing here. If it's tevel, so that means the guy has to separate it. So then there's a tavas no. If it's not tevel, then he never really had to separate it. So it's not his. It's not even his. But yes, it is. It's initially what Akiva's saying is good. It's good. Yeah. This is why the das Torah is a hefker from our brains. But anyways, this is one of those prime. I was thinking about that today. This is a prime example of it. But anyways, let's just make sure we have it clear. We're saying that according to the Chacham, who say that it's tevel, so that means that the person, the Yisrael, has to separate the Maaser ani. If he has to separate the Maaser ani, that means it's within his power who to give it to. If that's the case, there's Toivas Hana. And if there's Toivas Hana, that means the woman who made a neder against all people will have to be Makar Toiv, or she doesn't have to be Makar Toiv because he's giving it to her for free. But the bottom line is that's a benefit because theoretically people do pay for that right. So if that's the case, then Maaser ani she can't have. So that's what our mission is coming from. Ulamanda Amar, the fourth line down, Eina Kairashem, according to Manda Amar, Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you do not have to separate the Maaser ani from this thing of demai. Kasavar Sveikai Eina tevel. He holds it a suffix is not tevel. If it's not tevel, less like toivas ana. It's not toivas ana because the guy doesn't even have to separate it. It's not considered his. It's not considered anybody's. And then she could be benefiting from it because there's no word nesina. Right. So that's again to boil it down. Is a Machlokes or Relazon Chachamim whether from demai you need to separate. You need to separate Maaser Ani or not. According to everybody, you don't have to give it. But the question is, do you have to separate it or not? So we're trying to say that the same Machlokes of whether you have to separate it is going to depend on whether there's Tovas Hana or not. And that's what's going to depend on whether an Ani gets who makes it, whether somebody who makes a neder against everybody in the world, which means they're an Ani, whether the Ani could take it or not, right? So whether there's Tovas Hana or not. So fine. So Abaya doesn't like this. Amalei Abaya. So Abaya said, no, the Kuli Sveika tevel. The choladeis, no, the suffix is tevel, and you do have to separate it. Okay, so then what's the Machlokes Rebbe Elazar and the Rabbanan? Right, again, till now we were saying that Machlokes Rebbe Elazar and the Rabbanan is whether you have to separate Maaser Ani or not from demai. Now Abaya is saying no, everybody does. He says you do have to. Okay, so why does Rebbe Elazar say not? Rebbe Elazar Rabbanan, this is what they're arguing on. This is another fascinating Machlokes here. Rebbe Eliezer Savar, imagine this one. Loi nechshedu Amei Haaretz al Maaser Ani. Amaratzim are not even chashud on Maaser Ani, meaning they're chashud that they're not going to take off regular Maaser for Levium. But for Aniyim, they're not chashud. They're going to take it off. Why? Oh, mamash a Yiddish cup right here. Right? It's mamash a Yiddish cup. Why? Kivon the ilu mafker nechase fave ani v'shakalehu. Meaning, what a guy could do, he could be a real wise guy, right? He doesn't want to give Maaser Ani. He says, "Why should I give money to the poor?" So what could he do? He could separate the Maaser Ani. Then he makes all his belongings hefker, which now means that he is an ani, and then he could take it back. Right? A brilliant move. Yeah, like all these chachamim who text that, can I buy something from Costco, use it for a year, and then return it? You know what I mean? A braysa chacham. Yeah. All these type of things. So the guy's doing is the same thing. I'm going to give the Maaser Ani, then I'm going to make all my belongings hefker. I'm going to take back the Maaser Ani, and then I'm going to take back all my belongings. Beautiful. So Mela, since an Amei Haaretz knows he could do this shtick, so he doesn't mind taking off the Maaser Ani because he has the potential to do this shtick, right? So less leipseda, there's no loss. So there's no loss for him, right? So therefore, he will take off Maaser Ani. For Rabbanan Savri, nechas nichsei. A person does not make his things hefker. Why? The mirsas, because he's afraid that there's a different wise guy who knows about this wise guy, and he's going to jump it and take all his belongings. Right? The mirsas dilma zachibu inish achrina, and somebody else is going to come take it. So therefore, hilkach nachshadu. Therefore, he is chashad. Right? Meaning, the first guy, Rebbe Eliezer is saying he's not chashid on it, because what he's going to do is separate the Maaser Ani, then make all his belongings hefker, which then makes him an Ani, and he takes back his Maaser Ani. And the Chachamim say no, because there might be a wise guy who knows, because really hefker should be done in front of three people, right? So one guy might say, okay, you made it hefker, I'm taking all your properties, and now he's out. So he doesn't think he'll be able to do that, and therefore he is chashid on Maaser Ani, and therefore that's what the Chachamim say. You do have to separate Maaser Ani. Either way, so that's the way Abaya does not like this teretz. So therefore we're back to square one. Why does the braysa say that the woman who made a neder from the whole world can take Maaser Ani, and why does the Mishnah say that she cannot take Maaser Ani? So we need another teretz. So Rabba Amar. There's two different types of two different times that somebody can take off Maaser Ani. He could either do it in his house, right, or he could do it in the, what do you call it?
The warehouse, the silo.
In the warehouses, or what do you call it? The granaries, the whatever, the
granary, silo, warehouse.
Things, yeah. So there's two different times he could do it. So one is talking about Maaser Ani that's in the house. That it says there in the pasuk, Akiva, this is what we're referring to before. The pasuk says in the Sina, because it says "V'nasata la Levi la ger," and you give it to the Levi and the ger, right? So since it says a lashon of nesina, so giving, so then therefore he has to give. Therefore he's giving it. So that means the tavas hano there. Therefore he cannot give benefit to this lady by giving her the Maaser Ani because she's going to benefit from it. The other one is talking about Maaser Ani that gets given out, like we said, in the silo, in the warehouses. hinachta b'sharecha, that you just leave it in your, literally means in your gates, right? But means that you just leave it wherever it is. So then, which just means that any ani comes and takes it, the owner is not involved at all in the giving. So then, shari leila sanuye, therefore it's mutter for her to get hana, because the owner has nothing to do with it. So again, this is like a little bit the opposite of what we were saying before. But basically, what's going on here is that there's a stira in psukim, because one pasuk it says v'nasati, right? One pasuk says you give it to the ani, and the other pasuk says is you leave it. So which one is it? Do you leave it or do you give it? So the way we're answering it is that no, it depends where you're taking it, where you're leaving it. If you're leaving it in the warehouse, so you just leave it there. So then any ani could take it. Therefore, it has nothing to do with the owner. So therefore, it's not a problem, right? The woman who made a neder can take it from whoever can take it because she's not getting hana. But if it's in the house, then it's more of a problem, because there he actually gives it, right? Now that's one way the Gemara says it. The Ran brings the sifra that there's that you could say the opposite, that in the house you leave it, and in the granary you in the house you leave it, in the granary you give it. But whichever, either way, but that's the teretz. The teretz is the same, right? Fine. Okay. Shaila is, should we start this next sugya?
We want you to enjoy the sunshine.
It's all good. It's all good. No, just the
Yeah, it
next.
looks like it's nice and sunny over there.
Sure. We have to go. If you want a tan, you got to go to the tanning parlor.
Aaron, they're getting the good weather. The good weather's coming from New York to Phoenix.
Anyways, okay. I guess we'll stop here. Because it's a whole new sugya. So it's and tomorrow's daf is not all that long. So I guess we'll stop here. So the Olam should have a good night, and whoever wants to stay on and poke fun of me is welcome to stay on.
Yeah. 1 second. Where's the braysa seeing? We're like, what are we? 5-6 flat out.
Oh, I don't know. You got to speak to the people in charge.
Aaron.
Listen, we had it
That's
2
not-
nights
that's not-
ago,
it was
Sunday
a
night.
close
So.
Akiva, why aren't you in charge? Why aren't you
Oh,
You know what?
good.
You know what, Irvine? I'm in charge. We're not having.
Okay, good. No. Hefker cries. No.
I said I'm in charge. We're not having a siyum. It's not a real masechta according to some.
Oh, there
The
you
guy
go.
didn't make a siyum on it. We don't have to either.
Okay, so we'll make one less meat. How's that?
Rabbi Yaakov said you're in charge. You said you're in charge of the siyum, so you can't say the siyum is that we're not having a siyum. It's a steerim in Bay.
Listen, it's
You-
like
you
tevel
never
sana.
having to use one of your terms. It's steerim
You can have-
Bay.
I don't know if I ever used that, but
Okay,
you
but it
can have
sounds like something.
You can have
Sounds
it like you
something
can have
you would
tevel sana
use.
when it comes to.
It sounds like something you would use.
I like saying it's a something like that. You know?
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But
I
Akiva,
didn't realize it's next
Hey,
week.
Aaron, we still have any? Does Darky have any more time left in Bellworks?
what
You
when
guys
is it?
have the record?
You know what you should do, Aaron? When the shul I davened in when I grew up, Shalosh Shudas, the Gabbai would announce in the middle of Shalosh Shudas, this week's Shalosh Shudas is sponsored by so-and-so, and next week's Shalosh Shudas is sponsored by, and he would sit there in uncomfortable silence until someone sponsored Shalosh Shudas. So I think Aaron's going to start doing that by the Siyumim. That's the...
You know what we should do, Aaron? You know what we should do? We should fly out to Phoenix and have Leo host the entire scene.
Absolutely no
With
problem.
all that extra meat Yaakov brought out.
You missed. Anyone who was here today could have come to a bris.
Yes,
I made a dinner bris.
Joe made a bris in his house, and I gave up on it. I didn't go, and I gave up on a lot of meat and chicken and all that stuff.
What time was the bris? Like 9 a.m.?
You were in Phoenix and you didn't go to a bris in Leo's house?
Can you imagine?
I can't.
I wouldn't let him.
And
The next level of what?
not only that, he called me. He says, "You want me to bring you food?"
And we call that win-win.
I wouldn't let him come to the bris. I wouldn't let him come.
I heard he did a voiceover with Liner's voice in the background.
And he was thinking it's matnas aniyim, but I said I'm not giving toivas hana. Whatever.
Yaakov,
Yes.
what It's the first time I've come across this kind of type in Amei Haaretz. We're dealing with demai, right?
Oh, no,
Yeah,
Gershon, we're
but
having a
Amei
good
Haaretz-
time over here, Gershon.
Oh,
Come
he's
on,
still
Gershon,
recording, so I
seriously?
figured we might as well do something worthwhile. If he would have cut the record already, I wouldn't have started.
This is, by the way, this is all I have left. So yeah,
Wow.
That's it.
Can we see the pics? Where's
I
the
put
pics?
some. I put some aside for you, but other than that, that's about it.
Gershon, I'm kibitzing. Go ahead. Come on.
Gershon, any like
It's
prime?
just
You had any prime
it's an
there?
interesting music. What?
No,
What'd you say?
This is so cute. I know
This
it's
Amei Haaretz here.
Yeah.
Until now, Amei Haaretz means the things he doesn't know or doesn't care about.
Gershon, I was thinking the exact
Here.
same question. Meaning he's like a Russia.
This guy's
He's trying to steal.
okay. I'm not bringing
it's
home.
more. It's like this kind of Amei Haaretz is an Amei Haaretz in Yiras Shamayim.
Right.
It's not a knowledge. It's like it's an interesting take on Amei Haaretz.
Well, again, what are you saying? Why? Because he's
Until now, an
educated?
Amei Haaretz meant he knows about Truma because it's Avoid Misa. Something that's not Avoid Misa, he doesn't know about, so he's chashud. He doesn't take Maaser. He doesn't take Maaser Ami. Here, this guy's such a lamdan. He knows about Maaser Ami, and he knows so much that he can be mafkir his whole nechasim, take them back. He's scared. He's not scared. This is just pure Yiras Shamayim. He's chashud on. He's not an Amei Haaretz in knowledge. He's just an Amei Haaretz in Yiras Shamayim.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We've come across Amaratzim like this, Gershon.
No, I'm aware of that. I've just never come across it in Gemara. That that's what the Taich Amei Haaretz is. Right, that's what I'm saying. This is the first time I've come across it in Gemara. That this is what an Amei Haaretz is.
But it's a
Right.
switcher.
First of all, aren't there other Gemaras where they say like Amaratzim, some of them were Mamish Rishon?
I don't know. Mamish Rishon, they do things that are
Like I did
against the Torah, but it doesn't call them a Russia. I don't think.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
It's just a lack of knowledge usually. This is not a lack of knowledge. They know everything.
And don't we say that Amaratzim, it's not necessarily it's not the definition the way we understand it nowadays. I don't think.
with brown
What?
underneath black sneakers.
What? Meaning Amaratzim back then was like they were anti. It wasn't shot that they were just not educated.
Well, that's what this seems to be saying, but you never see that klar in Gemara.
No, but I always thought that that's what it was.
Oh, I just thought they didn't know. Some people just didn't know anything.
Why not?
Right. I hear. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
I was listening to your Sunday shir.